Hi, welcome to this Esko Software Solution Demonstration series. In this episode, we will be covering Store Visualizer and more specifically the category management feature part of Store Visualizer Prime. All participants have been muted, and at the end of this demonstration, we will unmute for Q&A. My name is Bart Meersschaert, and I will be your host today. Stay tuned for additional sessions. An event calendar is hosted on esko.com Brand Solutions. So in today's session, we are going to look at Store Visualizer category management. Category management is part of the Prime version of Store Visualizer. And for today's session, I have already prepared this ahead of time. So let's play the demonstration here. And pause where necessary. A couple of statistics. 64% of consumers will try a new product because the packaging catches their eye, and 41% of those consumers will actually purchase it. So packaging design is very important on consumer behavior. Small brands have done successful redesigns, yielding a 7-time investment on their return. So with Store Visualizer, we have the opportunity to create virtual stores for testing and data collection. We can drive design decisions based on information that we gather from that data collection. The data collection happens in a variety of different ways: keyboard and mouse, eye tracking, virtual reality like HTC Vive. This is quantitative behavioral analysis. So it's really data that we can capture. We can look at the move path of these consumers through this virtual store. Think of it as a digital planogram, and capture that data and use that data to drive design decisions, not only for the packaging, but for advertising purposes, or to drive shelf placement or store flow, right? By redesigning where we place our products, what impact does that have on the final purchase by the consumer? Very powerful as well is that we can use data collection information and make changes to this virtual store and see the impact without having to redo that data collection using predictive algorithms. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that here in just a second. Let's fast forward a little bit through here. So here we are. Let's pause for a second again. Here we are in our small supermarket. Now, if you think of a regular supermarket here in the United States, having anywhere between 40,000 and 50,000 products, other stores like Costco, significantly less. In Europe, you find more and more smaller supermarkets that are spin-offs of Food Lion, for example, or Deleuze, as in European countries that you'll find in major cities. So when you create these stores, just be mindful of what your target audience is and what type of data you want to collect and process later on, right? So here you can see that we're going to focus on confectionery. So we have a little display here on the left as a header display. At the end right there, and right here, let's pause and disable my free look and switch over to a planogram mode floor plan. So I can set the view height and I can show this floor plan in a rendered fashion or in a more stylistic fashion. So again, we entered the store from here. I walked over here and I'm standing right here. Here's that little display, and I'm looking here at the store. So in this virtual store, I can really freely move around where I want. And I can also, with the consumer insight, capture data from different participants as they walk through the store, look at products, pick up products, decide to purchase those, put them in their virtual shopping basket, or put them back on the shelf. So let's go back to a floor plan layout. Notice that we can have multiple levels here. This is a mini mall, so we're on the ground level 0. That would be level 1 in the US. And here we see that I'm currently opening my data set. So what is a data set? A data set is information that I captured using the different types of capturing devices, mouse and keyboard, eye tracking like Tobii, or virtual reality sets. Those tools allow the participant to walk through the store, and we can collect data. So as we invite these participants, we can also do that remote using our Store Visualizer satellite app. We can capture the gender, the age, the height, so some parameters around those consumers. Region, for example, is something else that comes to mind. And you can see here Anthony and Bernard, as well as Stephanie. We had those consumers use an eye tracking device. Chris as well here I see in the list. The other participants used other means of capturing information. Okay, so that's very important to have a data set. We can enable that data set, and we can overlay that on top of our virtual floor plan. These little circles and lines you see is the move path for each of those consumers. That is plotted here in a timeline, and I can move that timeline, I can play that. Notice here I can also activate heat maps and show fixation. So fixations is the duration that a consumer took to observe a certain part of the aisle or a product. Let's pause here again. It's visualized by means of a circle. The larger the circle, the more time that consumer, in this case that was Chris, it's highlighted in red, spent for that specific shelf, for that specific product. Heat maps accomplish something similar, showing you where the consumer looked. The numbers you see in the floor plan, the path, is the duration in seconds where the consumer stood still and looked at a given product. Keep in mind, I currently have a whole bunch, looks like 13 different consumers. I activated all of them, so it can look a little bit cluttered, but the application allows me to focus on specific categories, let's say male versus female, consumers from a specific region, children, and so on. So let's play again. So here I'm showing heat maps, which you can see as a pattern of blue to reddish colors indicating the duration. Right here you can see additional metadata and filtering mechanisms for those participants. Let's go ahead and sort these and activate Catherine right here. So with that, I can focus on one specific consumer, and I can see the total duration that Catherine spent in the store, 263 seconds, as well as all the products that she looked at and put in her virtual shopping basket. And in this case, you can see here, for example, also that she looked at the product, but she decided to put it back. Here on the right-hand side, we can see our products, and let's pause here again because this is very important. All the information that I collect is based on metadata that was assigned to products. For example, here I have this strawberry forest with a sleeve, so Alpro brand highlighted, and that specific SKU has metadata assigned. Keep in mind, we don't have to manually assign that. We can use planogram software to bring in all that information. Let's go ahead and pop that metadata out. And so you can see here not only the UPC code, the manufacturer, the brand, the category, dairy product. That's going to become very important here in a few seconds. The weight, the price, and any other type of metadata assigned to this product. So it's very important to understand that we need that metadata in order to be able to capture that quantitative behavioral information for later analysis. Okay, let's focus on category. So I can pop that out of my scene menu and I can use the automatically generate category from metadata button, this little magic wand, to generate metadata information and apply that to shelves, products, or furniture that's part of the store. So you can see right here that I can use any category, subcategory, brand, price, for example, and apply that to shelves, products, or frames and furniture. So let's activate category to shelves and click on the generate button. Let's pause here again for a second, and you can see that after generating this information, the system has now displayed about 10 different categories: beverage, cereal, confectionery, dairy, gave each of these a color code, and plotted that on my floor plan. Notice certain areas which are hashed have multiple categories, like here, for example, you can see dairy as well as produce being part of this section of my virtual supermarket. Okay, so a great way to visualize categories. Now we can not only do this in a floor plan mode, but I can switch back over to my 3D view and use the view categories in 3D right here to overlay these categories on top of my shelves. So again, the aisle that we are currently looking at, highlighted in blue, confectionery. Notice that I can also create presets of these specific combinations. So if I would create metadata key category and assign that to products, you can see now here that the 3D virtual store displays confectionery for each section. Also, pausing here a second again, you notice some products here don't have any color code, and that is because the category was not assigned to the metadata for those products. So here we can see, for example, a range of products that is not highlighted in a color code. So again, that hints to the importance of having really good metadata coming into the system. Now keep in mind, you can always manually add this metadata also in case it would be missing. Okay, let's plot another example here of price data. and apply that to products. Notice before I generate here that I can plot a numeric range here from 50 cents through $30, or in case the prices would be in euros, that would be in a currency by which the metadata was assigned, in multiples of $5. So let's go ahead and generate, and keep an eye on the category in the top left. So now we can see here, products anywhere from 50 cents to $1, $1 to $2. I am plotting all of these at once right now. Also, all my data sets are still highlighted as well. I can focus on specific categories. So let's say I want to display all the products between $10 and $20, or $20 and $40. Here you can see all the products highlighted in yellow are in a price range between $5 and $10. I can also merge some of these categories right here, so I can dynamically manipulate this information, these different ranges. So let's say, for example, I noticed in the category 10 to 20 that there are not that many products, so I could decide to group all products between $5 and $20, or here between $2 and $10. So selecting those and merging those is now going to give me anywhere between $2 and $10. So visualizing is one thing, but in combination with the consumer insight, we can really start to derive some very important analytical data here as well. And the whole purpose, again, is to create that analytical data, export it, as you can see here, to a CSV or an XML, and then later process it in dedicated tools like Tableau to really start digging into that numerical data. So let's switch back over to our floor plan and see the effect of category combined with consumer insight. So again, here we are in our floor plan mode. My consumer insight can display statistics, and those statistics right here are grouped in different categories. The one we are interested in is move path analysis. So anything from time spent to number of visits to total number of purchases. So let's focus on time spent. Again, keep in mind all my 13 consumers are active. So I can see that between all these consumers, they have spent a total time of 67 seconds in the confectionery aisle. Okay. The maximum time spent was 129 seconds. We can see here beverage aisle, dairy aisle, and so on. So it's broken down here by category. So you can see a significant amount of time was spent, 35% of the total time was spent in the confectionery aisle. So let's dig a little deeper into this data here. And let's say, for example, let's plot the manufacturer, and let's apply that to shelves. And let's go ahead and generate that. So this will give me a list of all manufacturers of all products. So depending on the number of products in your virtual store, this list can be fairly large, right? Hundreds, thousands of products. So again, you can search through this list. For this proof of concept, we're going to look at two specific manufacturers. We're going to look at Ferrero and we're going to look at Mars. Let's go ahead and select the other manufacturers and remove these from the list, like so. And once we have our two candidates left, we're going to assign a different color code to them. Mars products being highlighted in red and Ferrero highlighted in blue. So this shows me that Ferrero has a larger presence in this virtual store than Mars. Okay, so we can see here at the checkout aisle, there are some confectionery products, and then in that dedicated confectionery aisle, we have Mars products available, present right there on the left. And let's not forget our little header display here, which is exclusively Ferrero. So if we go back to our statistics and look at the time spent, we can see that consumers, again, all consumers combined, have spent 86 seconds average on Ferrero products and only 14 seconds on Mars products. So this gives me a really good insight on the behavioral shopping time that all these consumers spent. Now, we have a feature right here, part of category management, that allows me to create a visibility map of this behavior. So I can click and drag and highlight an area in which I want to display this behavioral analysis. Let's pause here for a second. What are we looking at? So again, we're looking at the floor plan, we're looking at the aisles, and we can see areas of the store highlighted in blue, focusing on Ferrero products, and the red areas focusing on Mars products. So these are areas in the store where consumers have a visibility on that specific manufacturer, right? So as a consumer, for example, comes from here and walks through the aisle, they have a clear line of sight on these Mars products. Hence, this area is highlighted in red. Okay. Now, we mentioned in the introduction that this category management can really help brands to optimize product placement, store flow, and even design of products. So what's the impact of a redesign? So let's see how product placement can impact this 86 seconds versus 14 seconds. So let's say, for example, that we take that little header placed right here at the end of the aisle, so the end cap right there. Let's select our object control here in the bottom and go to the Move tool, which is the arrow north, south, east, and west. I can pick up this little end cap and reposition this end cap. As I reposition this end cap, I can go back to my category management and update my map. And let's pause here again for a second. This has obviously a dramatic impact on the total area where my consumers will have visibility on my specific products, me being Ferrero, for example. So we can see that that footprint has extended into those two additional aisles. And if we go here and we update the time spent, we can see that it increased from 86% to 105 right there to 92% total. So that's in seconds, and 8% for Mars, right? So 105 seconds represents a 92%. So again, keep in mind, we only have, we have all these consumers active, so that's a shared time between those. Now, very important, and I really like to highlight this, is that as I made a change by placing this end cap to a different location, I was still able to use my existing data set. So I didn't have to go back to consumer focus groups and ask these consumers to redo this entire shopping experience. No, I could really just repurpose that data set, and using predictive algorithms in the software based on the existing track, so the path, the software was able to recalculate the impact that that had on the total time, in this case, spent on my product. So very powerful. This is a great value statement. This will really help you to very quickly see the impact of changes that you make, not only to shelving, but also when you switch out products and you're experimenting with different colors, for example, different look and feel, rebranding initiatives, which can then also be used, obviously, for marketing and other purposes. So here again, I am moving this and experimenting and seeing what impact that has. Again, keep in mind that I can also focus on specific consumers. So here I can say, hey, what does that mean for just all the females that were participating in this study? And then instead of looking at price, let's look at price, right? So what type of price categories did these female consumers purchase? And again, here I can see the total number of purchases, for example, right? So you can see that 48% of the total purchases from these female consumers were between $2 and $5. 30% were between $1 and $2. So by repositioning products, how can I as a brand become more profitable and entice my consumer to purchase these more expensive products, right? So there's a myriad of different possibilities using this additional consumer insight module combined with the category management in order to really impact your product marketing strategy and product design process using this virtual store testing and data collection. So we have come to the end of this presentation. I would like to also draw your attention to the fact that you can find more information on esko.com/store visualizer, and you can go ahead and get your license right here, a trial license. You can also download this very informative white paper, why consumer insight in a virtual store setting can maximize your design impact. A great document talking about consumer insight, why virtual stores are used, and how it can help your brand to collect that information and then use that information in combination with category management to increase your brand exposure. So highly recommend some great information in here. Highly recommend downloading this. There's some use cases here from a customer here in the US, L'Oreal. Again, using virtual store to collect this consumer insight information. What is it? How does it work? So here it's talking about the satellite app with different participants where we can collect this consumer insight remotely, and how that information can help your advertisement, your packaging design, shelf placement, and store flow. side-by-side comparison right here of virtual 3D versus virtual 2D. So I highly recommend downloading this document. So with that, we have come to the end of the presentation, and we will go ahead and open it up for any question and answer. So let me go ahead and